Good morning, everyone. We are starting now the special prayer for the spiritual uplifting of our ancestors of the Formation Center of Pretoria, attached with the prayer for the 11th year anniversary of the late Reverend Francisco Jesus Fernandes. A Matsunorito prayer, the Messianic prayer, and the Lord's Prayer.
Kamaharani Kanzumari Masu Kamuro Gi Kamuro Mino Mikoto Mochites Nemiyo ya Kamui Zanagi no Mikoto Tsukushi Imokano Tachi Hana no Otono Agihara ni Misogihara Itamo Ininari Maseru Harai Tono Mitachi moro moro no magago totsumi kegareo. Harai tamae kiyome tamae tomaosu. No yoshi o amatsu kami bumitsu kami yao yorosuto. Mitachi tomo ni ameno fujikoma no mimi furi. Deki koshime seto kashikomi kashikomi momosu. Mirokuo mikami mahori kamae sakihae mai. Mirokuo mikami mahori mai sakihae kamae. Oshie mio yano shino kami mahori kamae saki. Kamae oshie mio yano shino kami mori kamae sakihae kamae. Kanagara tamachi haimase. Kanagara tamachi haimase. O Supreme God, Creator and Giver of all life. O Supreme God, Creator and Giver of all life. By thy divine will, the long age of night has come to an end. Thou art releasing thy direct light to live the glorious new age, for which mankind has long been yearning. We thank thee for guiding us to thy divine light program. We thank thee for the privilege of receiving and channeling thy light. May our spirits and bodies be illumined and cleansed. May we live the precept thou hast given us through yourself. Make us pure channels of thy divine light, blessing those with whom come in contact. May thy plan for the new year of life be fulfilled, and peace, health, and plenty become a reality. Great God of light, bless us and protect us, and give expansive radiance to our soul. Our Father who art in heaven,
Our Father who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Let us receive Jore. End of Jorah. Teaching of Meshutham. Understand God's will. Man is born into the earth dimension with the mission of establishing an ideal world. This is God's plan. So, when he lives and functions in harmony with the plan, man can live and work most happily in perfect health. This is an eternal, immutable truth. However, no individual is free from the spiritual clouds which are passed from generation to generation. In addition, because of man's ignorance of truth, he indiscriminately introduces harmful substances into his body. Because of this, he sometimes becomes more susceptible to illness, contrary to his expectations. However, if those who are useful in God's cause should be unable to work because of sickness, it would be a deterrent to the furthering of God's plan. It is natural that He would help these individuals and restore any lost health, so they need have no undue anxiety. Unfortunately, those who are unaware of the meaning of purification believe that the sole thing they can rely on is medication, and so they only suppress their illness. Since this is not in accord with the law of oneness of the spiritual and the physical, they cannot attain real, complete health. This is not only true of physical sickness, but of all suffering, all misery, all our purifications, though of course they take on different forms because of differences in causation. For example, when spiritual clouds are formed by pecuniary or other material sins, such as theft or embezzlement, or other acts causing loss to others, or living beyond one's means, they are often balanced by subsequent material losses. There are many instances among wealthy families of prodigal sons who squander huge legacies. They do so because they are atoning for the spiritual clouds accumulated by their parents or forefathers. In such a case, the spirit of an ancestor often chooses one of the descendants to perform the mission of purifying the family of its clouds, so the family line may continue to prosper and not die out. It would be absolutely useless, therefore, for anyone to try to reform such an individual and change his ways. In the case of two sons, one prodigal and unmanageable, the other well behaved, the one brother would seem bad and a discredit to his family from the ordinary viewpoint. However, when considered from a daijo or broader viewpoint, the truth is just the opposite. The bad brother is performing the mission of purifying the family line of its spiritual clouds, so he is doing a better work. Thus, it is not possible to determine the good or bad of anything solely from a human viewpoint. If we take other examples, such as losses due to fire, burglary, fraud, failure in business or in gambling, large expenditures for illness, and the like, we see they also are atonements for wrongs of a material or pecuniary nature. Whether or not anyone escapes being punished by man made laws, no one can ever escape divine law, which is absolute. In the same sense, clouds formed by wrong acts which cause a guilty person to avoid another's eyes are often purified through some kind of eye trouble. Clouds formed by hurtful, cynical, or spiteful words that are painful to hear may find purification through ear or tongue trouble. Those caused by doing something to cause headaches to others may bring headaches to the doer. Clouds created by the exercising of one's talent solely for self benefit may cause purification through arm or hand difficulties. Thus, sooner or later, a purification of the spiritual clouds is inevitable, in conformity with the law of spiritual affinity. I would like you to remember that rather severe purifications may come to some individuals after they have joined our fellowship. Strangely, the more dedicated they are, the more severe the purifications sometimes become. Those whose faith is not strong and firm may waver. However, this is a most important time. While God wishes to quickly reward these individuals for their sincerity, their spiritual clouds must first be dispelled to a certain degree. In the same way, dirty containers must be cleansed before they can be used for wholesome food. If they endure their purifications patiently, without wavering, they will find themselves being blessed far beyond their expectations. Now, I am going to tell you about my own experience concerning this point. For some 20 years, I was burdened with a huge debt. No matter how hard I tried to repay it, I did not succeed in doing so until my human self finally gave up. At last, in 1941, I was able to repay every bit. How relieved I felt! The very next year, to my great surprise, unexpectedly large sums of money began to come to me. I was deeply moved by God's great love and beneficence. A popular saying in Japan goes, after the fire, prosperity. It means that often a person becomes more prosperous after suffering losses through fire, his fortunes taking a turn for the better upon his being purified by this means. After its big fire of 1950, Atami City became far more prosperous than it had ever been before. What is good, of course, but what seems to be disastrous or unfortunate is also good, since it serves as a purifying process, and when it is over, everything becomes better. So, if a person can accept either fortune or misfortune, health or illness as something good, something to be grateful for, he can be said to have attained true peace of mind. Of course, this can apply only to someone who has complete faith in God. The sufferings of a person with little or no faith may merely give birth to more suffering. The more impatient he is, the worse the situation usually becomes, and finally, it may reach ruinous proportions. For this reason, I would say that the secret of total happiness lies in understanding this principle, which is based on the spiritual law of life. December 2nd, 1953. Testimony of Faith by Maria Brigida Nkula from the Jorei Center of Soyo, World Messianic Church of Angola.
My name is Maria Brigida Nkula. I am 29 years old and live in the Soyo municipality, Kitona neighborhood. I am a missionary and give service as the head of the Net of Salvation in the neighborhood of Kitona. I was guided to the World Messianic Church of Angola in 2013 by my brother João Antonio Nkula, a full member of the church. The reasons that brought me to the church were illness, family conflicts, insomnia, difficulties to get pregnant, cat noises in the windows and doors, and nightmares. During 13 years, I lived in this situation until my brother guided me to the church. I was received by a missionary who guided me to do the basic practices of the Messianic faith. When I started putting them into practice without difficulties, everything was overcome, except that I still had difficulties to get pregnant. However, that didn't prevent me from expressing my deep gratitude towards the Supreme God and the Messiah Meshusama, as I found the happiness I was looking for in 13 years. In 2016, I became a full member. The testimony of faith that I would like to share with you is related to the correct practice of donation and following the guidance received in the seminars that I have been participating online during this lockdown. I tithed only when it was convenient. A lot of the times I tithed for 1 month, stopped for another, and so on. With the permission of God and the Messiah Meshisama, in this period of quarantine, I started studying a book called Vision for Expansion. I found a passage from the late Reverend Tetsuo Watanabe where he said that people who are useful to God are protected by Him. Then he added, people, practice tithe for a year, the whole year, every month without failing. For all those that tithe religiously for every month and still live unhappily, I will return all the money you donated during the 12 months with interest. I made this commitment with thousands of people, and until today, not even a single person came and said, I want my money back. Aware of the mistakes I had been making with regards to tithing, and while analyzing my financial difficulties, I made the decision to start a challenge and tithe correctly with all values that came into my hands. Until then, my husband used to give me a monthly allowance of 30,000 kwanzas. After I started practicing the correct donation, 2 months later, my husband handed me 70,000 kwanzas in order to buy a stove, as we were using a borrowed one. In the following month, I again received money from my husband, an amount of 150,000 kwanzas, this time to buy a freezer. The other testimony of faith is related to the guidance of valuing and putting and doing the basic practices at the house. While carrying out the practices at home, surprisingly, people started to come to my house to receive the aid. With this attitude, I experienced the following miracles. Mr. Samuel Kula, who lived 3 desperate years of poverty, conflict, illness, and unemployment, came to receive Jeray every day. Within 3 days of receiving Jeray, he got a job with a salary of 43,000 kwanzas. 43,000 kwanzas. Materialized the donation and is now a member of our church. He is being taken care of so that ingratitude does not take hold of him. He believes that the Messianic Church came to save people. Another person had a chronic wound. For 8 years, he could not move and suffered with intense pains. He started receiving Jeray every day. After 2 weeks, the wound healed, the pains were gone, and he became a member. He tithes and wants to become a full member. With all these experiences, I learned that by following the guidances received from our superiors, we are safe and, at the same time, we are spiritually uplifted. I guided 40 people to the church, of whom 3 are full members. I take care of 8 houses, 2 of full members, and 6 of members, with a total of 2 full members and 23 members. My commitment is to focus on the guidance received from our superiors, to guide more people, to take them to the place of honor of faith, and to transform the net of salvation into a jury center later this year. I thank the Supreme God, the Messiah Meshusama, and my ancestors for the permission to be on this path of salvation. To the reverend, ministers, missionaries, full members, and everyone who heard my testimony of faith, my deep gratitude. Maria Brigida Kula.
Greetings from the President of the World Messianic Church of Africa, Reverend Cláudio Cristiano Leal Pinheiro.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you very much for being today here for the permission that we have to be praying for the uplifting of our ancestors. And today also is a very special day for us that we are praying for our beloved late President Reverend Francisco Jesus Fernandes. It's been 11 years since he passed away. Yeah, it's as though it was yesterday. It's really not easy for us to live without his physical presence, but I do feel him a lot in our daily activities, guiding us through always remember his example of love, of commitment with the happiness of people, of the happiness of the world. He was always concerned about the construction of paradise on earth, not only with words, but through his daily actions. It's something really that all of us have the opportunity to live with him, to work, to give service along with him. We have it really recorded in our hearts. Yeah? And he was a living example of what Misama teaches us. Really a living example of love, of really worrying about everyone who was around him, not only inside the church, but in society. Wherever he went, he always left a very warm impression in the hearts of everyone who had contact with him, because people could feel his real love, his commitment with the happiness of everyone. And when he was guided to our church, it was in 1972, if I'm not mistaken. No, 1973. And he was a famous soccer player. He was going through difficulties in his career. He even became a player at Brazil's official soccer team. And he started receiving Jorei, had blessed with Jorei. That's why he became a full member. But since the beginning, he had some doubts, main doubts. He knew that Jorei changed his life, but since he had a Christian upbringing, it was hard for him. Oh, but he might not betray Jesus Christ, become a member of World Messianic Church. It was always on his mind. Eh? That's why when he went to Japan, at the beginning, many times he went to the sacred grounds of Japan. He always researched about someone's relationship with Jesus, with the other founders of other religions, until he found out the teachings where Midsummer explains very clearly that the mission of Jesus was sent by the Supreme God with the mission of Lord of Redemption. And Midsummer was sent with the mission of Lord of Salvation, the mission of Messiah to save humanity, to make come true what Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha prophesied. And so it became clear to Reverend Francisco Mishama's mission, Jesus' mission, Muhammad's mission, and that we should deepen in the practice of joy and the practice of the teachings so that we could understand it really from the very bottom of our hearts. Because if you are members, missionaries, ministers, and we don't deepen in the practice of joy, deepen in the practice of the studying of the teachings, in the practice of the teachings, and the other basic practice of faith, we will always have a shallow faith. We cannot live in the shallow, yeah? Like Lady Gaga says, no? Shallow. We cannot live in the shallow. We need to deepen. What is to deepen the practice of joy? Is to take care of people, give them joy, seeing they overcome their troubles through joy, teaching them how to express gratitude for the blessing received, not only through the practice of the donation, but also guiding other people and worrying about making other people happy. That's how we deepen in the practice of joy, the practice of the teachings. Thanks to our sister Maria from the province of Zaire and God for the wonderful testimony of faith we've just heard. Through her testimony of faith, we see she was already a full member, she had received blessings, but she was not really committed with the practice of the tithe. She made it once in a while. It was not something consistent. She was still in the shallow. Until she read Heaven Watanabe's guidance about the practice of donation, she decided to do it properly. And as she started to deepen the practice of the tithe, her husband's attitude changed towards her. Her financial life improved a lot. And the best of all, she became able to guide other people and be used as Meshama's instrument to change the lives of other people as well. Because we can offer to anyone only what we have. I cannot offer what I don't have. If I don't trust in Jory, if I don't practice Jory, I will not offer Jory, give Jory assistance to someone. If I don't have gratitude in my heart, I cannot talk about, I can speak beautifully about gratitude, but I'm not move anyone because I not speak from the bottom of my heart. I can only offer what I have got. That's why we need to practice first. Not practice once in a while, but practice on a consistent basis. Joy, donation, the study of the teachings, the practice of Ikebana, the practice of nature farming, the practice of praying for the happiness of other people. That is how we're going to develop a faith that will really link us to the Supreme God, to the Messiah Sama, and will be used by God and Messiah as their instruments to helping other people to construct paradise on earth. I do believe that this is the best gift we can offer to God, Messiah, and to our beloved late Reverend Francisco, is this practice of faith, not a faith to overcome our troubles, but a faith that aims at participating in the construction of paradise on earth and the salvation of humanity. That's what is Meshama's mission on earth. That's why we've had our lives changed through the power of Jory, through the power of the teachings of Meshama. And the best way to express gratitude to this is to spread it to as many people as possible. Take the flower, take the light of joy, take the teachings. Let's spread the testimonies of faith together with the teachings. And people who have affinity, when they hear, when they read it, they say, oh my God, I want to try this. But if we don't share, we will not be able to find the ones who have affinity with Mishama and who need to be brought to this work of salvation through each one of us. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Now let's go to our march of Jorei. Let's receive Jorei to receive strength here, and receive Jorei here now formation center. Give Jorei here to recharge our batteries so that we can practice in our everyday life. Thank you very much. Have a very good day. Thank you very much.
Hereby, we end the special prayer for the spiritual uplifting of our ancestors of the Formation Center of Pretoria, attached with the prayer for the 11th year anniversary of the late Reverend Francisco Jesus Fernandes. Thank you very much.